listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast by Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb, Dr. Fredrick J. Long, Dr. Mario Melendez, Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and J. M. Smith. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to Proof Text. I'm Michael Halcomb, and I'm here with Dr. Fredrick J. Long. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time, if you're a returning listener, we appreciate you. And you've got a great, we really have a faithful base at Glossa House. The guy who did our SRG&T, our statistical restoration group, Alan Bunning, our Greek New Testament, Alan Bunning, he was telling me that somebody emailed him. They knew that his Greek New Testament was live on our website before he did, and the guy emailed him and said, "Oh yeah, I check Glossa House's website every morning. Every morning I wake up and I check the site to see if they've released anything else." So we evidently have people like that who are checking the website every day, and I know our podcast listeners, we have a pretty faithful base that are listening consistently. So yeah, if that's you, thanks for supporting us, and we hope you enjoy the resources we put out. Yeah. So Fred, you well?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Yeah, thank you. Yep. Getting ready for the SBL IBR trip out to San Antonio. Looking forward to that. We're going to drive out there, but we're going to bring Glossa House with us. Also, Glossa House being shipped to one of our marketing people. So shout out to her, Christy. Thanks for receiving our things. Hopefully it's not going to be more than you bargained for. But yeah, we have 4 booths at SBL. 4. Yeah. It's going to be fun to see people walk by. And I think it was George Guthrie, who's a fan of ours. He just walked by and he just says, "You guys, I can't believe how much you're growing." And so what's he going to do this year? It's sad. Someone who's a great supporter of us is James Aitken. Yeah. And he passed away. Oh my gosh, that guy was awesome. Like, he presided in a session where I gave a paper. He was just masterful, kind, like so smart, erudite. There's like some general questions to our panel, and he responded to it gracefully, kind of asked, "Is okay?" And it's just the wealth of knowledge. And then this guy had a heart for the Lord, and then he loved what we were doing. I mean, he would stop by our booth repeatedly. And then to hear that he's passed away, oh my gosh, that's a heartbreaker to lose people like that. And he wasn't terribly old, So anyway, life is brutal, but we're very appreciative of the support from our colleagues and peers. So looking forward to SBL. It'll be fun to be down there.
You mentioned our marketing person who's been helping us. She sent me. So I just designed this new 20-foot. 10-foot by 20-foot banner, and we shipped it to her house. She just sent me a picture. I don't know if we'll be able to sort of see it, but it's kind of in. She tried to like set it up.
Is that one of her children sitting in the?
Yeah. They cleared they cleared out all the furniture and tried to set it up inside.
That's a big living room too. Oh my goodness.
The dog down there at the foot of the thing, that kind of puts it all in perspective.
Oh my gosh, Michael, you knocked that out of the park. Man, that is huge.
And then it wouldn't open all the way, so she's like, we couldn't get it to. Yeah. So, anyways.
So I guess that means that she's okay. That we're sending her these boxes.
I guess I just sent her 2 new banners yesterday. I just had them shipped off. So.
Oh my.
We're gonna have a great booth this year. So, as I've mentioned before, I think it's 325. I think is the number. So if you're around SBL San Antonio, come see us. So, well, we're in Galatians, so let's get to it. We are in the last verse of chapter 5 and maybe the first verse of chapter 6. We'll see. So I'm gonna put the Greek text up on the screen. and we'll go for it here. You see verse 26, it sounds like this in Greek. Me genometa kenodoxiu, alelius prokalumeniu, alelius thundes, thun- thonundes. Sorry.
Mm.
Uh, hey, yeah, so you got some kind of repetition going on here for sure. You got the alelius and alelus and then alelius. So that's kind of interesting to see that uh, going on. But I don't really have anything else to say. I think in the previous one I talked about how
Yeah.
the phi theta is a little challenging. So
Yeah.
Nunez, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I really don't have anything to say either because I just last time I made no, just kidding. The one thing I will start out with is that verse 26 there's no connector. So verse 25 had no connector as well. So I'm kind of puzzled because I don't really see these as parallel statements. They have the ring, verse 25 had the ring of like a proverb almost, like a maxim like how you live by. And I could see why Paul might want to separate that out a bit. Remember, a syndeton means that there's no connector that would properly indicate what the author wants. So you don't use anything. It could be used of no connection or parallel connection if it's like a rhetorical flourish. This isn't quite that in my mind, but we are in an exhortative context, which might suggest a little bit of a rhetorical flourish of sorts. I am noticing that verse 25 is like a positive exhortation. Be lined up with the Spirit, live in line with the Spirit. Don't be being boastful. So possibly you have a positive, negative kind of thing. So verse 26 is a prohibition, me genometa, which is interesting because the default, I would say, for prohibitions is may with the subjunctive, the aorist subjunctive. So when you see may with the present tense, that present tense subjunctive is going to be, well, I guess here it's a hortatory. It's let us not be being or becoming. So there's this, when you have the present tense, either subjunctive here, hortatory, or imperative, it's particularly construing like the ongoing need to be doing something or not be doing something. And so here, I think there's just a real caution to not let ourselves become, not let us become boastful. Yeah, and this word boastful, doxy, it's a bit of an unusual word. It doesn't have a high frequency in the New Testament. In fact, this is the only place it occurs. In fact, it's a hapex legomenon. So I'm curious about that. Whenever I see unique words, I'm always curious how the audience would have known what it meant. Would it have had relevance in their context? And I'm seeing the word doxos and keno. So keno probably meaning something like empty or vain. Kenos, and then doxos has to do with like opinion or thinking. It's related to glory, actually. Doxos.
Vainglory, empty glory.
Vain glory. Yeah. So an empty glory, but somehow in regard to ourselves. I'd say here, this is like a classical example of the ego self. What's that called? The super ego. The fact that or alter ego, I guess there's different words for it, where we kind of project or become conflated or inflated in our own self-esteem and self-importance. So don't do that. Don't be self-absorbed. Probably could be another way we could say it, maybe. But yeah, this kind of self-importance. Don't be caught up in your own self-importance in a sense.
Let's
Um,
have a
yeah.
little fun here for a second, because
Another
we
thought
we were
experiment?
yeah, talking about like how the hapax here and how would they know what it means, right? So obviously we have a Greek compound. I think they would have just put it together. I mean, they probably knew it, even though you did say it was a hapax, right?
Yeah, only here.
So let me we have some new words that have come out in 2023. I bet you haven't heard some of these. So just let's play a game and see if you can figure them out just based on
Me? You're playing a game with
yeah,
me? Okay.
yeah, let's go.
I
All
could
right.
have some fun. Okay.
Here's a new word. I think that these are all formed in 2023, all right? Self-coup.
Self-coup?
Yeah.
That's like that's
Self-coup.
rebelling against yourself, like taking yourself over.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
coup? Yeah.
Yeah.
Being
Kind of like
hijacking yourself?
like a self-sabotage, I guess, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of an interesting way to put it, right? Self-coup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here's another one. Rage farming.
Wow, rage farming. Sounds like getting a rototiller out and then just destroying everything, and everything that's growing gets put under the ground. I do that at the farm. I get out the rototiller and yeah, rage farming. Hmm.
You think
I
that's
do
what
that, I
rage
think.
farming means? I think rage farming means um like trying to
Trolling?
stoke up rage in people, like trying to plant seeds of rage and then bring that rage to fruition until there's
Yeah.
like an all-out rebellion.
So kind of like trolling, right? It's like it's a subtype of trolling, like a certain end of trolling, right? Trolling is where you're
Hmm.
leaving messages and provoking people, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're planting these seeds of rage and then trying to
Huh.
harvest. You're trying to gather a harvest, glean a harvest of
Some
rage.
people get off on that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
man.
like how they feel. Apparently, some people are so turbulent and out of whack inside, and they tag other people with that. And when
Yeah,
they see
great.
them getting enraged, they go, oh, okay, I feel better because I've tagged them with that rage. I mean, it's
Yeah.
craziness, really. Yeah.
Here's one. I'd never heard this till just now. Pet fluencer.
Pet fluencer? Well, I think that's trying to win over a pet by bribing them with food or praise or petting or something.
I don't think so. You're close. It's someone who's on social media
Ah,
um, with their pet, and they're like an influencer selling pet products and posting pictures with their pets, and so they're
okay.
a pet influencer.
Yeah.
Um, Here's an interesting one. Nearly wed.
Newlywed. They're newlyweds.
Yeah,
They're not quite there.
right.
I wonder if that means that they're engaged. Does that mean
Seems
engaged
like it.
people or like they're living together and they should just
Ah,
go ahead and get married, but they're
yeah.
newlywed?
I don't know. Yeah, those are just a few of them. I'll stop there,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
thought that
yeah.
was
Funny.
kind of
Funny.
fun.
I don't know what that had any relation to do with this Greek text. Oh,
Well, it's
combining of words.
yeah,
Combining.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I always like that, like couch potato, combining two different
yeah.
words. So vainglory. Yeah. Now, what else is interesting in this verse? So you notice the sounding, there's a lot of similar sounding things, is you have two instances of one another. The pronoun alelon, one another, they're both objects of these verbs. Challenging, calling forth one another, and envying one another. So you have these participles which are post position. They're post nuclear. They're explanatory in function, explaining more details of what that vainglory seeking or that boastfulness would look like, how it would be manifest. One is to call out people, and the other would be envying them. So those are two activities that are explaining what the pursuit of glory or vainglory would look like or manifest. That's my understanding.
Calling out is a weird translation. I do think challenging or something like that. Like I'm wrestling to figure out the connection of this verse to the preceding verse or verses. So in 25, that
I
he'll
know.
walk in step with the Spirit.
Yeah.
26 maybe then is walking not in step with the Spirit, but in such a way as to rely on oneself and give glory to oneself.
Yeah. I mean, I think okay. So I think it's fleshliness living. So I think that's the
Why
relationship.
not put 26 after 24 and then put 25 at the end? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think 26 is transitional. So it is transitional to the next verses, which is how to live in community. It could have been that chapter 6 could have started with verse 26. So chapter 6, like imagine if the guys who put the versifications in the chapters first, Stephen Langton, what if he would have put chapter 6 beginning 20 in verse 26? I think that would have made sense, because you're moving to kind of how do we relate to one another. So 26 really is transitional to 6:1, talking
I,
about communal
you know,
life with one another.
yeah, because I think
But I
this
see your point.
refers back to the fruit of the Spirit. But yeah.
No, I do see your point though, and that's kind of the puzzlement of why this disconnect. Why are there no connectors?
Yeah.
These are kind of seemingly independent statements. Mhm. Yeah. Challenge is another, or provoke is another way to translate prokaleo. It's very, it literally means to call to the front. And I'm wondering if it's some kind of formal social activity. Is this kind of what you did with an opponent? Is that you make an example of them in a negative kind of way? You call them up forth to revile them or to denigrate them or something like that. So that seems to be more of a social outward manifestation. Then the second participle, the phonon eo, is more of an eternal envying. I see that more as an internal process. The one seems to be more external, social. The other one seems to be more internal, dispositional, being jealous or envious of. Yeah.
But also remembering, right, there's a difference between jealousy and envy. So I think jealousy is kind of strictly internal, whereas envy may have an external component to it, right? Jealousy is wanting what somebody has. Envy is wanting what somebody has and doing some, like hoping evil befalls them so you can get it.
Mm.
And there's a nuance there, but it's an important one. And so with envy, if you're gonna do, if you want what they have and you're gonna hope for evil to befall them so you can get it, you might actually end up acting on that. And
Interesting
causing.
that you're distinguishing these terms. In the lexicons they don't.
Yeah, the
They'll talk
lexicons
about.
are wrong.
Well, it might be that the Greek word covers both of those things that in English we might differentiate. I mean, I think that's the
Well,
issue, right?
I'm admittedly I'm reading Aquinas back onto
Okay.
this.
But
So
That's okay. It does seem that this word phnoeo, you can do that all you want, is to feel aversion or ill will or resentment. Resentment. That's pretty active. But then it says to be envious or jealous. So it seems like our lexicons consistently say enviousness and jealousness, that there's
Yeah,
overlap.
I honestly, like, as arrogant as it might sound, I think that's problematic because I think there's a difference between the two. Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't think they're pure synonyms.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Well, interesting, but they're definitely antagonistic towards the other, which I guess you define as envy that might want to take it.
Yeah.
So I guess there maybe, yeah.
And earlier in Galatians, Paul talks about casting the evil eye, right? Galatians 3, or was it 2:1 maybe?
3:1. 3:1.
3:1. And so I was right. I was starting to say 3:1. But, that whole idea of the evil eye, the point of that was, like, what's underneath that is envy. I'm going to cast the evil eye on you to bewitch you so that whatever good you have, like, evaporates and comes to me. That's the point of the evil eye.
Yeah.
So I think evil envy eye evil eye and envy are more synonyms than envy and jealousy in the ancient world. Should we look at 6:1? You want to go there?
Yeah, let's go 6:1 then.
All right, last chapter of Galatians. Wow, there are 18 chapters, so we got probably another year in Galatians. But
18 verses, you mean?
18 verses. So
should be 9 episodes or so.
This is a lengthy verse, so we might not be able to get all the way through chapter 6, verse 1, but maybe. We'll see. So, adelpheu, eanke prolimphe, there's that phi theta again, interesting. Anthropos, endini paraptometi. Eumis eu pneumatikiu, katartizete ton uton, en pneumati prautetos, skopon se avton me ke su pirastes. Wow, that's a lot. A ton of P sounds. Oh my gosh. So what's really fascinating is that in the previous verse, the last verse of 5, you have that phi theta, and then 6 you have the adelpheu, and then prolemphe, anthropos. You got a the and a p there.
Paraptomati.
You got 2 p's and 2 t's there. Pneumatiku, a p and a t. You have pneumati again, p and a t. Prautetos, p and 2 t's. Skopon se avton, and pirastes, p, t sound theta. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're spitting at me.
Yeah, it does sound like that.
Which is the Greek word for spit is patuo.
Yes. Yeah.
So
interesting to see that, though. So that's all I'll say about this in terms of pronunciation.
So brothers or siblings, as Michael would say it. So a vocative direct address. So it's intriguing. Always pay attention to the direct addresses because there's variety and it's often appropriate for the context. So here he's moving particularly to talk about restoration and like how to act as sibling members of the same family. And so right at that moment, he profiles the audience, particularly in terms of their sibling relationship. So calls them out as siblings. So then you have an aeon connector, which is a subordinating connector, indicating a conditional clause at hand. And I'm looking, when I see on, I'm looking for a subjunctive mood verb. And there's only two condition types that begin with on. A future more vivid, which is the default future tense condition. And that occurs with the future indicative. Or if it occurs with a present tense indicative verb or equivalent, then it's called a present general truth condition. And I think that's what we have here, because we have a command form, which I think is meant to be in the present tense, like whenever this occurs in the present tense. So I think what the significance of this is that this is like a general truth. Like this is how you do things. This is what you should do in these circumstances. This is the circumstance. This is what happens when someone is stuck in some trespass. So if also a person, anthropos, generic reference to person, not a he or she, but a person. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not using tis. So I'm wondering why tis wouldn't be used, because tis would mean someone. So why anthropos here and instead of tis, which would have conveyed, if someone also is caught, maybe to avoid the othering that can happen with tis. You can sometimes use tis, which means someone or something, to refer to someone indiscreetly or discreetly refer to somebody. So it could be kind of a technique of referring in a way that is putting epistemic distancing. But you could use it both ways. Paul does it in 2 Corinthians 10. He refers to some people, some say. He doesn't name them. So I'm wondering if he's wanting to avoid that kind of implication. And so instead he talks about a person, anthropos. I'm curious. I'm wondering out loud what that might mean. If a person.
I like that idea. I was going to say in Mark, so I was just teaching a preaching class to the upcoming preachers on our district this past weekend, and I'll finish that up this coming weekend. But we were looking at Mark 9, and it's you have something similar going on there where John is saying, we saw someone trying to do an exorcism in your name, but they didn't follow us, so we told them to stop. And we were wondering in the class if that same sort of thing is happening. Is it sort of being discreet like that? We kind of do it this way, like, we'll ask a question like on Facebook or something. We'll be like asking for a friend, but discreetly we're like asking for ourselves or somebody close to us, right? Like, often for ourselves. It's like the whole, asking for a friend kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tis does occur. The indefinite pronoun tis is what we're referring to down in verse 3. For if someone supposes himself to be something while being nothing, he is sorely deceived.
Kitis?
Yeah, tis there. So interesting. Yeah, anthropos in verse 6:1. That's really interesting. I think there's something to it.
What
I
about
think it may,
the eanke is even if
also. I don't think it's even if. I think it's if also, in addition.
Say why? Why not even if?
Well, it's eon ke, not ke eon. I know it's English coming into English. Yeah, you may be right about that. I mean, particularly how it might relate to verse 26 then. Don't be vainglorious, but even if a person is caught in some trespass, correct them. and meekness. So it seems like the ke works a little better, somehow adding something to the not being vainglorious and envious and being a
Yeah.
jerk, but rather to be meek, so that and even if someone is, yeah, I think that does make sense. I'd want to think about that more though, but I do see that. Yeah,
Also, you were kind of talking about the tis for in place of anthropos, but we do have a entini, right? The tis form there, and
yeah,
that's also kind of one of those indiscreet moves, in
yeah,
some sin or in some
yeah,
trespass. Like,
yeah.
well, you just listed a whole bunch of them. Why be general or vague now? Why not just list the one you're thinking of?
Yeah,
Unless.
I think I'm making sense of it. So when you have the verb prolambano already used, meaning caught, that already is envisioning some scenario. And then you can talk about, once you have that scenario, you can talk about some trespass, because the scenario is already there where someone is caught in something.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what I think is going on.
This isn't. I was reading this as if like I caught somebody doing something, but that's not the sense at all. The sense is that the sin has got a hold of them and they're like caught in the trap of the sin.
hmm, hmm. Maybe, yeah, maybe. Prolambano, and it can mean anticipate, undertake, get, take, detect, overtake by surprise. So it has a uh, it
The
has
person
a
is taken by surprise by some sin
sin, yeah,
or trespass, whatever, however you want to do that.
trespass, yeah. Paraptomata is a stepping over.
Even siblings, even if a person is taken by surprise by some trespass.
Even if someone's taken, you, the spiritual ones, restore such a person in a spirit of meekness, watching yourself.
Mm,
Watching yourself. So here's the danger, that you're going to become too proud in yourself. So watching yourself, and now the content of the watching is with the me and the subjunctive, what follows. The last four
mhm.
verses there, me ke su peras theis, lest also you yourself be tempted.
Yeah. So I have a question about
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Is this dealing with, as you were sort of inferring there, all right, I saw you be overtaken by the sin. Now I'm going to call you out on it, and the temptation
Mm,
there is to be like a holier than thou kind of person,
yeah.
or is
Yeah.
the temptation so I see you taken by surprise by some trespass or some sin. I come to restore you, but then I get sucked into that sin too. And that's the
Yes.
temptation.
Yeah. Particularly. Yeah. Yeah. There's something really true here. I mean, I'm thinking of Peter denying Jesus, like, I will never. And he's like, you're going to be the first one, and you're going to do it the worst. I was just talking to a high school friend in youth group, and he was reminding me of the youth pastor calling us guys together. And I vaguely remember it, but he remembers it very vividly. He said, yeah, before we went off to college, he talked to us about the temptation, to sleep around. And my friend was like, I'm a virgin, like, it's not going to happen to me. And the pastor said, you're going to be the first one to go down. And it happened.
Oh
So
wow.
there's something about
Wow.
that
Mm,
arrogance
mm,
there's something
Yeah.
about that arrogance. I think there's something very sinister about it, honestly. I
Mm,
think there's I think we're vulnerable. I think when we're arrogant like that, we're opening ourselves up to a serious satanic attack. In fact, it may be a signal that we're ready to be uh, picked in a certain sense, or some sin or desire is ready to come to harvest, and the evil one and his minions will take advantage of that. So while the devil doesn't have insight, like he doesn't, and his people, his dominions, whatever, they don't know everything. I think they're an astute observer of us.
for sure. Yeah.
Astute. I think they can read us. And
Also,
when we're like prideful in that kind of way, man, they're just like, okay, we're gonna get him because
if
he's
you've
blinded
given,
in some way.
yeah, if you've granted some access, then all the more. But yeah, I don't know. I wrestle with is the temptation that I'm going to be arrogant in restoring them, or is the temptation that as I restore them, I fall into the sin that they're engaging in. You know, that's
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
going to the bar all the time, right? And then
yeah.
I'm like, I need to save Fred, so I go to the bar to get you, and then before I know it, I'm stuck in the bar with you drinking, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's an arrogance. I think that's the
Yeah,
connection with the previous verse. I think
yeah.
it's the arrogance part of it. I don't know that it's just going into the bad situation. I think it's when that's with an arrogance
Yeah. That does seem
myself.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems
This
like
this
it.
kind of warning in restoring somebody is found at the end of Jude too. The and by the way, the if you've not read like Jude or Second Peter, some of these what are called the latter New Testament, not later necessarily, but latter. Those and First John ends with this as well. It talks about confronting and like restoring people. Like it's
Mm,
amazing. There's such a strong call to holiness that really is quite amazing, but then also helping people out of their situations. I find it remarkable. But Jude warns against don't stumble. So he says in verse 23, save others, snatching them out of the fire, and some have mercy with fear, hating even the garment polluted by the flesh. And then he immediately says, now to him who is able to keep you from stumbling.
mm,
So you go from helping people, being cautious, really cautious, even of the staining of the garment, just that there's a pollution around everything, and then God's able to help you from stumbling. Like that's not accidental. Yeah,
mm.
yeah. So there's something we have to be careful of when we're working with people, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's I guess bring it to a close there. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
uh before we do our parting shot here, just do a few shout outs. Because just some people have been engaging us recently on via email or social media or YouTube or whatever, in connection with the podcast. So um if you are love Greek and Hebrew, then yeah, thanks for your comments recently. They've been really liking Noonan's series, which has been getting a lot of great attention. So
Mm-hmm.
we're so grateful she's on the podcast team. Tom Chittum, we both know him. He says
Mm-hmm.
just today these that our resources are awesome. Love what you guys are doing. Uh,
I loved
Troy
his comment a
Kidwell,
few weeks back. He goes, is there anything you guys aren't doing?
yeah, right. And actually had a modifier in there. Is there anything nerdy that you guys aren't doing, or something
Oh,
like
he
that?
added nerdy in there?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Geeky maybe was the word. I don't know.
Geeky.
Um, Troy Kidwell, thanks to Michael Stout and Lee Cook for following. Joyce Sweeterveen, I hope I'm saying that right, has commented on several videos. Um, and we're grateful for that. And she's found a couple errors I've made too, so on thumbnails or whatever. And then Jerry Hughes and Julie Lamb and Roger Carl and a bunch of people. So Angie Sabak, I'm not exactly sure how to say her name, but she's commented well and as well. And
People, well, at least one person was interested, like if we had our own Facebook group, what would that look like? And what would it,
yeah.
like, what
I
does
mean,
that
we do
entail?
have
Like real
we do
language
have our
focus?
Facebook. We have our Facebook page, but I suppose that's a little different than a group. We'd have to think through how to manage that and who's going to manage it because it takes time. And you can really get sucked in to those things, and I don't know that I have the time or capacity
Yeah, no,
to
I
do
don't
that.
know.
But
You do for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, thanks to everybody for commenting and sharing and subscribing, liking, all that stuff. We appreciate it. If we haven't gotten back to you or replied to you, just know it's because we're in a super busy season, and we hope to be able to do that at some point. But yeah, Fred, you got a parting shot for us?
Yeah. Dennis Kinlaw, when the Lord comes into a person's life, he brings many things with him, things such as joy, confidence, faith, hope, and love. His presence breaks the hold of circumstance. It sets us free.
All right. Always love some Dennis Kinlaw. Good stuff. Well, yep. Thank you, guys. We'll end it there, and until next time, aloha.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.